Hi. I've been on here in 2+ years, my guess is. I won't go into why. That's a whole other story. But yeah, it's been a rocky couple years. Rocky's the only way I can really describe it. Again, that's a different story. So, I haven't been in school for 2 years. I'm 2 years behind in school. But I'm back now. Well, obviously not now because Corona. But yeah, so I thought I'd just share like the ways that I can kind of stay mentally well during quarantine and kind of manage my feelings, my emotions, and just manage everything in quarantine. So yeah, let's get into it. So I guess I'll just get started really. Some of these might seem really obvious, some of these you might have heard before and just roll your eyes at, but these are what I have found helpful in quarantine. The first thing that I try to do, but I don't do every day, is to make a plan. Yeah, it's not always down to the minute, it's never down to the minute really. It's just, you know, even if it's one thing you want to achieve that day or do that day, even if it's just watching a movie, I find that really helpful just to kind of think, okay, this is what I'm going to do today, whether it's schoolwork, watching a movie, reading something. Yeah, just try to kind of have that one thing in mind or multiple things if that's what you prefer. My second thing is taking up a new hobby, which I have done actually because before lockdown, obviously, I was skating a lot. I do ice skating, figure skating, which I really love. So that was quite hard to kind of not have anymore because I was doing it 3 times a week and then down to nothing. So I bought some rollerblades online and I've been trying to get better at that. You know, it doesn't have to be a big thing like that. It could be just trying to read more, drawing, playing a new game, painting. It can be anything really. It's just something new that you've never really done or never had time to do. Obviously, something you can do in the house, really. My third thing is to try to get fresh air each day. I find this really helpful just to kind of get out of the house because, you're cooped up in here all day, all night. It's just nice to kind of be able to like breathe somewhere different. And yeah, I don't really go for runs. I've never been into running. Sometimes I go for walks, or out on my rollerblades. Yeah, so just try and do that for a couple minutes each day. If you want to do longer, that's great, but even a couple minutes, or if you're anxious or you feel low and you really don't want to go outside, just open a window and let yourself breathe for a minute, because I find that really helpful. Even when I can't be bothered to go out, like I just drag myself out for a little bit and it does help me feel better. I don't really know how, but it does. My fourth thing is a bit of a strange one, but I'm going to say it anyway. Do things you never had time to do. Like, before, well, just, at the new year, I made a list of books I wanted to read this year. And before quarantine, like, I'd read half a book, and now I've gone through like 4 or 5 already. So, or like things you imagine sometimes, like, oh, I'll redecorate my room, I'll paint my room, I'll do this, I'll do that, and you never really had time to, whether that's because of work or school or anything. You just never had the time to do it and like put your full attention into it. Well, now you do. So, that's a really good one. Another one is to get dressed up. You know, I know people say, oh, self care, and yeah, self care is great, but sometimes you're a bit annoyed. But it doesn't have to be like a long bubble bath, because I know I find just sitting in the bath quite boring. So when I feel yucky, I like to put a little bit of makeup on, put a t-shirt on that I like, or you know, just a nice outfit, maybe braid my hair. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, or it works a tiny bit. I don't know, it just makes me feel a bit more alive and me, I guess. Probably the thing that I find most helpful out of all of these that I've written down is to make a list at the end of the day of things you've enjoyed that day, things you've accomplished that day. You know, I call it my positives of the day list. Yeah, I really like to do that, just to look back on the day and feel like I've done something. Or, you know, if it hasn't been a great day, I always try to find at least one or two things that have gone well that day, and that kind of makes me think, oh yeah, you know, it's not that bad. Also, it just kind of makes you feel like the days aren't just dragging out and you're not doing anything. You can look back and see, oh well, I've, you know, achieved something through this quarantine. And another really important one is to keep in touch with people. I find this really helpful because, you know, I just live with my mum, so sometimes we get sick of each other a bit, and you feel, when you're just in your house, you feel disconnected from everything outside. But even just like a text to a friend like, hey, how are you, or what are you doing tonight? You know, I've really enjoyed Netflix party and playing Monopoly games online with people, and that's just made me feel like connected to people and less lonely sometimes, which is really nice. You know, and you're not the only one. If you're feeling low or anxious, you're definitely not the only one feeling low or anxious during this time, because, you know, none of us have experienced anything like this before. And, you know, everyone's feeling anxious probably at this time. So, you know, reach out to people, talk about how you're feeling, because knowing that somebody else feels the same way and talking to them about it kind of makes it less isolating, and I find that really beneficial. Tip number 8 is get some exercise. Now, this is a weird one because, you know, everyone's posting quarantine workouts and, you know, kind of suggests that you have to work out every day, but that's not really what I mean. I just mean go for a walk when you feel sluggish, or, you know, even sometimes when I don't feel great, I just blast music and dance in my room for 5 minutes, and that already makes me feel better. I'm not saying you need to do a full body workout every day, you know, because I think that message is kind of toxic, saying, you know, you need to work out every day, you need to eat less, this, that, and the other. And that's really not the message that I'm trying to get at. I'm just trying to say, like, try to avoid spending the whole day in bed, because it may be really tempting, but it won't make you feel better. Now, obviously, there will be days where you do just want to, you know, stay in bed all day and watch movies, and that's okay. Like, we all have more productive days and less productive days. We all have days where we feel good and days where we feel less good, and that's okay, you know, that's called being human. It wouldn't be normal if you didn't have days like that, but, you know, the fact is, you just look at the end of the day and just think, you know, that's one day out of however many days you have in your whole life. Like, I can allow myself that one day to do nothing, and that's okay. Anyway, my last tip, and probably one that you have heard before, is don't overwatch the news. You know, I have the BBC News app on my phone, and I've been finding it really annoying because I get notifications like 10 times a day, and so I switched them off because, you know, that's not great. I try to kind of limit my news intake to like 5-10 minutes a day. But, you know, it can be really stressful and toxic to hear like the daily death tolls, and yeah, I know we can't ignore what's happening, but just dwelling on it isn't going to make you feel good at all. You know, especially when there's not that much you can do about it. Obviously, there are things you can do, like stay at home or donate to a food bank or help out a friend who can't go out. But in the bigger picture, you can't do that much. Like, it's a virus, there's no vaccine yet, you know. There's not much you can do. So dwelling on it and watching the news constantly for hours isn't really going to help you or anyone else for that matter. Anyway, so those are my tips. I think there was about 9 of them. Yeah. So obviously they aren't going to be helpful for everyone. You can kind of pick and choose what you take from this, but even if it helps one person, I'm happy. Even if you only take one little thing out of this, I'm happy. You know, these are what work for me. And obviously, you know, not each day is going to be perfect. Not each day you're going to feel great. And that's okay. Or a bit of insight. I think, as horrible as this situation is, there are some benefits. Like, I guess people learn to spend more time with their families, or, you know, have more time to themselves, which is always great, because in busy London life it's really hard to find time for yourself sometimes. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it and taken something from this. I hope you all stay well and healthy, and soon this will be over. You know, soon shops will start opening, cinemas, schools. Yeah, just stay hopeful.